Hey guys, so you all seem to really like my top 6 things to do in Charleston video. So I wanted to share some of my favorite money saving tips for places I've been and places I want to go. So here are my top 6 things to do in New York City on a budget. So I wanted to preface this by saying, unlike Charleston, I don't live in New York City, but I've visited many times and I'm always looking for ways to save money when I travel. So I do know a thing or two about how to see the city without spending a lot of money, especially if it's your first time. So my number 6 money saving tip would be to stay near public transit. So the price for the hotel will probably be a little bit higher, but the money you save and the stress you save for not having to worry about a cab or, God forbid, driving around the city yourself really outweighs that. So every time I've been, I've made sure to pick a hotel that's within walking distance of a subway station. And if you're going to be in the city for around 7 days, they also have an unlimited ride 7-day pass for $32. This is a really good deal if you're going to be here for that amount of time because you don't have to worry about reloading your card and you can come and go as you please. Also, a pro tip just based on my experience, fly into JFK Airport if you can. JFK actually has a subway line, what they call it the air train, that runs directly from the airport to a subway station. So if you can fly into JFK and it doesn't cost like so much more money, totally do that, especially if you're not familiar with the city. My number 5 tip is actually a good way to get a taste of New York City, and that is visit some of the awesome street vendors. A lot of people think to get the true New York City food experience, they have to go to some 5-star restaurant or something, but from my experience, the best food is actually the local small joints that you usually don't hear about. Last time I was in New York, I stopped by the Halal Guys. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but their chicken and rice dish was phenomenal. And it was only like $6, so don't get fooled by the high-priced restaurants around Times Square. There's so many great spots. So my number 4 tip is for people like me who pretty much has to go see a Broadway show every time I go to New York. So if you have a particular show in mind that you know you have to see on your trip, buy your ticket in advance, pay the extra fees, because if it's gonna make your experience, it's not worth missing out on because you didn't get a good discount ticket. But if you just want to see a show in general, you're not picky, there are lots of ways to get discount tickets. One way is to go to the tickets booth, which is a pretty iconic landmark in Times Square, and you can get tickets up to 50% off the day of the show. Another way, which is actually what I've done in the past, is to go to the lottery for each show. So basically what you do is you show up to the box office before the show, and they have a select number of tickets that they will give away at a super cheap price. And you'll put your name on a list and they'll literally draw your name out of a box. And if you're selected, you get a seat to see the show, and it's usually, obviously not the best seat in the house, but last time I did this, I got to see Matilda at a really low price, and yes, it was a side seat, but I could see the entire show and I didn't regret it one bit. So my number 3 tip is for people who a Broadway show is a bit outside of your budget. One thing that I highly recommend is going to see an improv show or a comedy show. These are pretty much happening every night of the week in every part of town, and you can usually get in for like $5 or $10 or sometimes even free. I've been to several improv shows and I've never not had a good time. So go out, go with your friends, and you're supporting rising talent, which is pretty much what New York City is all about. So my number 2 tip is actually something that a lot of people don't think of, but there are so many museums in the New York City area that don't have a set admission price. One in particular is the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which is my favorite museum I've been to in New York City. Most of these do have a suggested donation, but if you're low on funds, just give what you're comfortable with. You can spend the entire day at some of these places and never get bored. And my number 1 tip, based on my personal experience to traveling to New York City, you have to walk the High Line. This is my favorite thing to do in the city. So it's this long walkway of beautiful gardens and trees, and it's just completely not expected in New York City. In the same vein as that, most of the sightseeing things you can do in New York City don't cost any money at all. Things like walking the Brooklyn Bridge, Central Park, Times Square, 9/11 Memorial, Staten Island Ferry. I could go on and on of the free sightseeing things to do in the city without even opening your wallet. So hopefully these tips were helpful if you're planning to visit New York City and don't have a lot of dough. I know every time I go, I try to maximize my savings. If you have any other money saving tips for New York City, let me know in the comments below, or if you have any questions about the city, I'm sure there's so many New Yorkers out there that would be happy to answer them for you. As always, like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want to see more of these budget travel guides. I'm obsessed with travel and I'm obsessed with saving money, so this is like the perfect type of content for me. Also, I put a little poll over there for you to help me decide on my next city I make a budget travel guide for, or if you have any additional cities, let me know in the comments. I'm going to pick the ones that are recommended the most as my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and happy travels!